Don't look now, but ASU has another emerging volleyball powerhouse in Tempe. While JJ Van Niel has led the indoor squad to back-to-back Big 12 championships, Kristen Glattfelder has the beach volleyball team off to a 6-0 start and the number 8 spot in the current rankings, a program best. This comes 1 year after leading the team to 22 wins, a program record. With a loaded roster, the Devils have their eyes set on making more history this season. On this episode, Kristen and I discuss the keys to building a winner, dominating the rivalry with the Wildcats, her journey from pro player to college coach, and so much more. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Kristen Glattfelder. All right, Coach, the team is off to a very hot start so far this season. Want to take a quick look back. This past weekend, the team went out there and swept a pair of ranked squads out there. What were some of your big takeaways from those 2 wins?
It's always a challenge going over to UofA. Like, we know it's going to be a hard battle. And, Georgia State is a very well-coached team, and she always has her players playing super hard. So we knew it was going to be, a tough weekend. I feel like as we move up, we're going to have a little bit of a target on our back. And that's kind of been something that maybe we've struggled with in the past of, we had a lot of talent last year, but kind of struggled getting over that hump of beating teams that are in front of us or beating teams that are really coming after us because we were moving up in the rankings. And I was just really proud of how we competed. I feel like we've really been focusing on, taking what we are doing in matches and learning from those things and working on them in practice throughout the week. And so it was really good to see us start to use some things that we're trying to fine tune in our competition last week.
Now, at the end of last season, you guys go toe-to-toe with the eventual national champs in TCU, but opening weekend this season, getting a big win over the Horned Frogs. How big was it to get that win and maybe set the tone and get the season off on a good note?
I mean, TCU always has a great program, so we knew it was going to be a challenge. And, especially opening weekend, there can be some nerves. We're still trying to figure out pairs and what partnerships are working. And I was just really impressed with how we never backed down. It didn't matter if we were playing poorly or playing great or a team was pushing us. We just stayed true to ourselves and kept competing. And I think that was a big reason why we had the win that we did. And just excited to see us continue growing in that aspect throughout the season.
The team is now in the latest poll up to number 8 in the country, the highest ranking in program history. Now, with your success on the sand, JS indoors, what do you think it says to the overall volleyball college landscape about what ASU can do as a volleyball powerhouse?
I mean, it's a super exciting time to be at ASU. The programs that we're creating and the visions that we have for what we want to do with our programs. I think we're just in the beginning stages. We have really high goals for what we want to do with this program and want to keep bringing in athletes that want to help us get to that level. And I just think it's a super exciting time to be at ASU.
Last season, the team set up program record for victories with 20. Heading into the offseason, what was the kind of your focus in terms of just kind of taking that next step and elevating? That's obviously paid off early on so far.
I think there was a big focus on the mental side and just being able to be tough in challenging situations or when we got pushed. We spent our fall playing against some of the top teams in the country. We started off the season in Manhattan Beach, where I think all the top 12 schools were. So getting that experience early on, especially for, some of our newer athletes or people that transferred. And then we finished out our season in Kauai with Hawaii and Cal Poly. Again, 2 really strong programs. So I think them getting that experience under their belt and just working on not thinking so much about the winning and focusing a lot on the process. That's something we preach a lot in our program. We just want to see things done the right way, and we feel like the outcome will come rather than being so focused on the outcome. And that's that's what we do in practice every day too. Like we work on skill development, strategy, and just really like not worrying about mistakes that we're making, but like how can we do the process right.
So, of course, before your time at ASU, you're over crosstown rival at GCU. During your time in building the Lopes into an absolute powerhouse in their own right, what was your kind of impression of ASU's sand volleyball program?
Um, I mean, I was biased when I was at GCU, thinking that we were, the top team in Arizona. And I think wherever I am, I will think that we're the top team in Arizona, and I will work hard for us to be that. But I wherever I am, I want to build the best culture, have the strongest group of athletes that want to work hard, that want to be great teammates, that want to be a part of something special. And I think that was a big reason that I took the ASU job, because I felt like this was like the perfect university to be able to do that, where you have strong academics, you have an amazing campus, you have great support from everyone from the president down, and just excited to keep building building the excitement around our program and getting the community involved. We have a super cool new thing that we're doing this year, where we have a VIP experience for fans, where they have some shade out of the hot sun, and some food for them, and just get them to come out and support and see what a fun experience it can be to be at our matches.
So, I want to go back to the start of your own volleyball journey. How initially did you get involved with volleyball?
Oh goodness. I started playing indoor at a very young age. I think in 7th grade, I actually got cut from the team that I tried out for, and I was not taking no for an answer. And so I think my skinny little body at that point could not serve overhand over the net. So that was my goal. I'd go out in the backyard every day, and I was practicing my serve. I think at some point I probably broke a fence or two. But even in 8th, 9th grade, I probably was not the best. I would look at my setter and be like, don't set me. Like, I'm not going to be able to hit this in, and did not have the greatest mentality about my skills, but a very determined athlete for sure. And we moved to Florida, and my parents wanted to get out of the cold because we were living in New York. And I would say there, got some really good training and played indoor through my high school years. We won a state championship my senior year. I went and played at University of Kentucky indoor. And then when I graduated from Kentucky, moved back to Florida to be close to my family. And there wasn't really anything competitive to do outside of like going to the YMCA. And so, and also I'd been playing indoor my entire career and wanted a little, different look. But I literally had been in the sand playing like once throughout high school. And so I didn't even start playing beach volleyball till I was like 24 years old. And I had a random knee injury. And after that happened, I just was super motivated to train and get back into like strength training. And I was coaching a high school. And really just as I was training and competing, I was like building my career on the side. So I went back and coached for my alma mater for high school. And I had a lot of different hats. I was working as a career counselor. I was coaching club, and just really got to a point where I was really, really enjoying coaching. And my like pro career just kind of fell in my lap with a lot of hard work. I had no plans of going to play on the pro tour, but one of my friends graduated from indoor from Michigan and Michigan State, and we started to train together and play in some tournaments. And we're like, oh, hey, like we're kind of good at this. And so we started traveling. The first time we ever qualified for a pro event was for the AVP. It was an offsite qualifier. So we played it in Miami, Florida, and we qualified. And that tournament was to fly to Colorado to play in a single elimination match or single elimination AVP tournament. And the first team that we played was Misty and Carrie. And I think they were on like 100 match win streak. And we were like, we can do this. I think we only scored maybe like 8 to 10 points per set. But that was my first taste of like playing on the pro tour. And I loved it. Like it was so fun. And I had an opportunity at one point to decide my position as a career counselor got cut because of budget constraints. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to put like all my time and effort into training, and I'll just do private lessons and coach on the side and see where the sport can take me. And I think that was like a big moment in my, like journey through beach volleyball. It was like learning a different sport. I had played indoor for so long and was just like having so much fun learning about the sport of beach. And as I played on the AVP and on the Corona Light Tour and a bunch of different tours and did some Norsekas. And then as those, like after about 10, 11 years, I was like kind of on the tail end of my playing and was really enjoying the coaching piece. We had started an indoor club that also had a beach program. It was kind of like college prep to get them ready to get recruited, to go play in college, and had some success getting athletes at pretty high level universities like Florida State, TCU, USC, and was like, I would really love to do this like as a profession. And so I ended up telling one of my friends that was coaching at Georgia State that I was wanting to get into college coaching. And the athletic director her old athletic director was at GCU at that time. And she gave him my name. And my first time out to Arizona ever was when I came out for my interview. And I just absolutely fell in love with Arizona. And, they were the first university to give me a chance, even though I didn't have any college coaching experience. And I loved my time there. It was great. They were super supportive and, like allowed me to really grow as a coach. And then when I got the call for ASU, it was just like over the moon excited. I didn't even have to move. I just changed clothes, and it's been an awesome journey so far.
Absolutely. And so, when you first got that itch to start coaching and then make that your career, how have you seen yourself, where have you evolved the most in terms of, kind of, first starting out as a coach, now somebody who is, have built up 2 different programs into national powerhouses?
I mean, I look back and I'm like, I literally had no idea what I was doing in the first year. But, like I feel like I learned something every year. And I think one of my, outside of like first coming into college coaching, I think my biggest evolution as a like coach and person, honestly, was like last year, and just understanding how different it is going from like when I first got to GCU, I had 11 people on my team, and it was all athletes that were on the indoor program. And I think 9 of them were seniors. And so I didn't have to go through the transition of like, coming into a program where like, I don't know any of the athletes, their families show up at matches and I don't know them. Like the recruiting process is a really special piece of like creating your program, because you're getting to know the athletes. Like, do they fit into like what we want to do here? Getting to know their families, because like it's so great to have that support. Like we have a great group of families. They travel all over the country with us, and it's nice to have like that fan base. I definitely grew a lot I did a lot of administration, like we owned an indoor club with like 15 teams. So I did a lot of administration, but I think in my first interview, they're like, college coaching is like 20% coaching and the rest admin, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I'm maybe not the most organized person, but I surround myself with super organized people. But I've grown a lot in a lot of different areas. But I would say like the last 2 years it just was like a new challenge coming over to ASU and, taking a program that wasn't really like well known or, in the like top of beach volleyball to like figuring out how to get them there.
So now that you have, you built up the Grand Canyon to a team that was in the national rankings, and now ASU is, in the top 10, and the trajectory is, through the roof. What have you found to be the most critical elements in kind of not just achieving and getting to that high level of success, but also maintaining that level of success?
Um, Gosh, I think it's a big piece of who you bring in, like I can I can't go out there and play for them. Though I probably would not do well doing that now. But like you can't make people want it. You need to like bring in people that just have that desire to work so hard and like our sport is a lot about being selfless and like team first mentality. And so like bringing in athletes that are going to be able to like lift up that vision. And the transfer portal has been really helpful for us just because we've brought in athletes that maybe, didn't have opportunities. They were at really good schools, but maybe didn't have opportunities at that school. But are still great athletes. And, sometimes we joke about like we go through the recruiting process and maybe there are some athletes that are like top on our list, and maybe we're not going to get them the first time around, but we're going to recruit them so that the second time around we can have an opportunity at them. And we actually have a couple of those on our team right now, ones that I recruited back when they were juniors and they went somewhere else. And now I get to have them back, which is exciting.
So, of course, last year, 22 wins with the program record, but the year before, another milestone of getting ASU to its first ever NCAA. What did it mean to, get the Sun Devils in the postseason, kind of that, breaking that barrier, and obviously, with, the hopes for more tourney appearances in the future?
The first year I was here, they just were like so excited to get to work and to, like get ASU on the map. And there's also like when you're the underdog, there's that like, hey, I'm going to go prove myself mentality. And I think we had a lot of that. And like, we're not going to stop. I would say that our athletes probably have a big chip on their shoulder from last year and not making the postseason because we were super close. Like we were first team out. The getting the Big 12 started with beach volleyball was like a huge accomplishment. And we were competing in a conference that didn't have a automatic qualifier. So basically having to have like the perfect season. And we were probably like one big upset away from being able to make it to nationals. And so, we made sure this year, we also don't have an automatic qualifier this year, but I think we'll be able to appeal for next year because you have to have 2 years within your conference to build it. The first year we only had 4 and now we have 6. Super excited about the teams that we've added within our conference, but scheduling to where we're playing the right people to position us to be able to make it back to nationals. And, we have to take it one weekend at a time because yes, we had a great opening weekend. We have some tough tournaments coming up throughout March and into April as well. And I think it's a great glimpse into what we can do and hopefully, build some confidence in our athletes too, that like, hey, we can compete with anyone. And I truly believe that. And I think it's about getting them to believe it sometimes too. But I just feel like they're so bought in this year and just so excited about, like where we're at and what we could do that I have really high hopes for us this year.
You mentioned, having scoring those upset wins, and I believe you have 22 ranked wins in your brief tenure already. But a record that any ASU fan in any sport will care about the most. how do you do against U of A? And a 6-1 mark against those Wildcats and that team down south is pretty darn good. Been able to just kind of dominate the rivalry in that Territorial Cup duel, so far during your tenure.
I'm not happy about the one law. No, I'm just kidding. No, I like they always come out and play their absolute best against us. So it's always a challenge. We always have to be, like on our game. And I mean, if you look at the scores from last weekend, it was a battle and we didn't back down. We just stayed tough and like we executed really well, especially in the pressure moments, which is something that we've been really working on. And it's definitely never going to be an easy match when they're on the other side of the net. And like there's that pride that goes into it too, of like wanting to be the top team in Arizona. And I think that our athletes also have a huge sense of pride with that as well.
So of course, looking ahead now, you have a couple of weeks and 6-0 mark so far. How would you? What do you feel are currently, at this point of the season, the team's biggest strengths?
I've just been really impressed with, like, based on past years, I've been really impressed with how we fight, like the fight in us, the grit in us, and like we haven't gone into every single weekend playing our absolute best. Like I still think there's a lot of areas that we can improve, and like just being able to be tough in those moments, because when we see those best schools or even some of the schools that are ranked around us, a lot of the skill is going to be similar, but like who can be mentally tough in the pressure moments, who can finish out the match. And like we've proved that in a bunch of matches already this year. So I think that's a strength that I couldn't say about us in the past. And that probably has a little bit to do with them having more experience under their belt, us having a great group of seniors, having great leadership. And then we're really strong, and like we have really strong defenders from our 1 through 5. Like we could mix them up anywhere. And, like Olivia, who's in our 5s, she played in like the 2s last year. So our defenders are like really strong and kind of like our quarterbacks of each pair. And I think that's a huge advantage to, have great ball control players that have a high level of physicality. And we're probably more physical this year than we've been in the past, just with our blockers, our size. Whereas maybe we've been a little more of like, split blocker or smaller blocker team in the past.
So one of the questions I like to ask a coach who was an outstanding player in their day, going back, you mentioned your time at Kentucky, all SEC performer. How would you at that all SEC peak kind of fit in on this 2026 group of Sun Devils?
Oh, goodness. Well, at my time at indoor, I probably would get my butt handed to me by them. But in my beach volleyball playing time, I would say that I don't know. I'd like to say that I could, challenge them with my tough serves. I was an undersized blocker, but I also was very deceptive. And with me playing outside hitter in college, I would say one of my strengths was my ability to terminate as an attacker. So I'd like to say I'd fit in pretty well. I wouldn't take anything but playing in the 1s.
So as you mentioned, with the Big 12 kind of, a newer beach league, some different names that then perhaps some of the ASU fans and other sports might, not expect. Florida State, Boise State, South Carolina being some of the newcomers to the league. What's your view of just kind of, how Big 12 beach volleyball is coming along?
I mean, we're super excited. Last year when we were pushing to get the Big 12 to sponsor beach volleyball, we just wanted to get the ball rolling. We knew that if we could start with the 4 schools, us, UofA, TCU, and Utah at the time, we knew that like if we at least just got the ball rolling, that hopefully it would kind of encourage maybe other schools that didn't have beach volleyball yet to jump on board and get a program. Maybe UCF or BYU or Baylor. And if that didn't happen, we knew that we had like a strong enough group of us that eventually we'd be able to pull some other schools. And to have school, Boise is an upcoming program that's been doing a great job. They're always tough to play. Florida State obviously has, been to the championship, to NCAAs every year. So obviously a powerhouse, and then South Carolina as well. So it's super helpful to be able to play that tough competition like during our season. And then like it helps for recruiting to be able to have a conference that's really competitive. So I was really excited. We were in the talks with them for a while, and I was just really excited for them to get on board and for us to really like build a powerful conference.
So looking ahead to this upcoming weekend, the Sun Devil Classic is on tap. 4 big matchups, including another battle with the Wildcats, chance to go to 7-1 in that rivalry there. What are going to be some of the keys to coming out, and continuing this scorching hot start to the season for the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that we're playing them back-to-back weekends, but it's just kind of the way it worked. We usually play them a little bit later for the second time around, but it's just kind of how the schedule worked out. And Nebraska coming out, that's going to be a fun one. It's all their indoor players, and they've always been a powerhouse. So getting to compete against them, and being in our home sand for the first time this spring is exciting. We're hoping to have a good crowd that'll be excited about our program and just kind of see how hard our ladies have been working, and just keep on getting out there and getting after it every single weekend.
So for any Sun Devil fans of other sports, volleyball is on the newer side of the programs that the Sun Devils sponsor. What would be your pitch to those ASU fans who maybe don't know too much about beach volleyball and would like to take notice of a top 10 team in Tempe?
I mean, the weather is going to be absolutely beautiful this weekend. I think it's going to be in the high 60s or low 70s. We do have the VIP experience that we're offering that's open to anyone, but outside of that, our event's free. You can come get a little suntan, see some great volleyball, see a bunch of athletes that have been working their butts off and are super excited about showcasing what they can do. And you can sit in a lounge chair and have a cocktail and just enjoy your Friday afternoon or Saturday morning.
And last one for you, ultimately, this is a season that, you guys are top 10 and, some big game or big matches. Ultimately, what are things that would make 2026 a successful season for you?
I mean, there's a lot of parts that go into success for us, like our sport's challenging because only 16 teams get into postseason, like we have high goals. We want to win our conference championship. We want to make it to nationals. And as a coach personally, I have not made it to nationals and had that first round win. So, would definitely love to break that. But it's also about our athletes and just the culture that they're building and the family that they have become and how hard they work every day. I can't remember what our GPA was last semester, but probably around like 3.7-ish. And so they're just like working hard in every aspect. And like, that's success, like there's things that we can control and there's things that we can't control. We talk a lot about the controllables and understanding that even if we go out and we lose, like if we're taking care of the things that we can control, like that's a win. So there's a lot of aspects that lead to success within our program, but obviously a conference championship and a deep run in NCAAs would be a great year as well.
I'd like to thank Coach for taking time to talk with me for this episode. I'd also like to thank Kimberly Hayner of ASU Media Relations. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils here on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast for more great sit-down series episodes all year long. Make sure to follow me on all things social media at bdenny29.